What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Chris Meaney here with you. Another edition of Mean Streets live on our FTN Network YouTube page here on Game Plus Network, presented by So Rare. We got a lot to talk about here on this show. MLB Dream of FTN Bets is going to join us in a little bit. He's been hot fire all season long. In fact, been hot fire for a couple of years, talking some MLB picks and some props. So we were going to do Hot Corner today, and I said, listen, why don't you just jump on Mean Streets? It's been a minute. You were 5-6 weeks into the MLB season. I think we've chatted the first week or so into the season. I know we did some pre-season stuff. We're taking a look at division odds and just kind of taking a look at the World Series odds and things like that, things to expect in the MLB season. Now, as I mentioned, we're into May, the first week of May. And if you take a look at the standings and you haven't paid attention over the past month, you know, you kind of shake your head and wonder what the heck has happened. Like, how are the Pittsburgh Pirates so good? The Texas Rangers leading the division. How are the St. Louis Cardinals the worst team in the National League? How the heck did they get swept by the Los Angeles Angels? What? Give your head a shake. 3 straight losses. They're 10-22. They're not only the worst team in the National League, they're the 3rd worst team in baseball. Only the Kansas City Royals and the Oakland Athletics have a worse record than the St. Louis Cardinals. Missing Yadier Molina, Albert Pujols. Do they need some leadership in that clubhouse? What is going on in St. Louis? We'll talk about a few surprises. We'll take a look at the standings. You know, is it sustainable, you know, in Pittsburgh and Texas, you know, some teams that are maybe punching below their weight, above their weight. And of course, we will take a look at the MLB slate today. Yesterday was pretty good from a baseball standpoint. We continue to talk about Red Sox and overs. Georgia's Red Sox, another win. They swept the Bluebirds. They now have the 2nd wildcard spot in the AL. The Jays are right there with them as well. Toronto, I mean, they won 6 straight, then they lose 6 straight. Some inconsistency with them, but just the Red Sox and the overs have been so good to us. Even with Gossman and Bayo on the bump yesterday, we still had the over. We talked about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for a home run, over 1.5 total bases. He had the moonshot over the monster a couple nights ago, and then he went yard again yesterday. And Bayo did cash in with the strikeout. So it was a good day in baseball. Actually, I had a clean sweep with some of the picks. And as I said, we got Dream on here. So it's good timing for Dream to head us into the weekend to get some MLB picks and some props. Only one game on the ice tonight in the NHL. It's the Devils and the Hurricanes. Game 2 tomorrow night in Las Vegas between the Golden Knights and the Edmonton Oilers. We had Dallas Stars last night to come back. Yesterday was actually a pretty good betting day. Brandon Montour cashed in for us. We had Max Domi for a point at plus 120, plus 205 for an assist. We had Joe Pavelski over 1.5 shots. We did cash in with Matthews shots and Nylander shots. And something that I continue to press here on this show and over at prizepicks.com, because a lot of people are always talking, oh, I want to do an NHL same game parlay, but DraftKings doesn't offer shot props inside the same game parlay. Well, PrizePicks does. So PrizePicks is starting to become available in all states. You know, north of the border, you can play it everywhere besides Ontario. I'm sorry, Game Plus Network crew, but you can play Bet365 over there. So 2 successful same game parlays from us yesterday. You see the bottom one is from Bet365. Matthews over 4.5 shots, Nylander 3.5, Ryan O'Reilly over 1.5, John Tavares over 3.5. You could have included Mitch Marner if you wanted to, getting a little greedy going, you know, with the 5 shooters here, but it all correlates. We have the Florida Panthers goalie there over 29.5 saves, and Sergei Bobrovsky certainly earning the $10 million contract in these playoffs, isn't he? My goodness, he was great last night again for the Panthers. Took a 2-0 series lead, won both games in Toronto as the series shifts to sunrise for Sunday. So that's a look at the bottom and a same game parlay from Bet365. And again, some people saying they can't do it at DraftKings, can't do it here, but PrizePicks is available. Same sort of deal here. Bobrovsky over 29.5 saves, Matthews shots, Nylander shots, Ryan O'Reilly shots. That was 9-1. We were actually really close to nailing 2 6-pick entries at 24-1. We went 5 for 6 on both of them. We had added what was the top. We also added Matthew Nyes, and I think we added Mitch Marner. So we went 5 for 6 there. And the other one, we instead of Nyes, we had Morgan Riley for over 2 shots, and he was stuck on 1. So it was really close. But the thing with PrizePicks, when you do a 6-pick entry like this, it has to be a flex play. When you go 6 for 6, it turns out to be 24-1, 24 times your stake. But if you go the George, what we talk about all the time, George always jokes, you know, he'll go 5 for 6 all the time. PrizePicks, you get a little bit of money back. It's 2 times. So it doesn't feel like a massive win, you know, going 5 for 6, but you will double up your entry and you can give it another go. So this is something we're going to continue to do. over at prizepicks.com. Correlation. Our guy Alex Blickel has had a lot of success doing this, taking stacks in Major League Baseball, picking on a pitcher and then maybe taking 1 through 4 in the lineup, 2 through 5, 2 through 6, and you could take hits plus runs, hits plus RBIs. It all correlates. If look at this Rays offense and how great it's been to start the season. Getting a guy like Andy Diaz to score a run, and then Franco. I love the flip the other day. That flip that he had, I thought was just fantastic. Man, he's a baller. And then he went yard later on in the game. But like Franco, Randy Rosareno, seeing what other guys are, in their lineup, and you could do hits plus runs, and it all correlates. And if they do stack up 5 or 6 runs, then you're really going to be on your way. So Alex Blickel is super sharp, friend of the show. He's had a lot of success, of course. We have him on to talk a lot of golf on this show, but he is super sharp when it comes to NFL and baseball. And we did a video, which is free to check out over at FTN Network, our YouTube page. And it's it's called How to Win at Prize Picks, but it's really how to be a successful player. We talk bankroll management, we talk correlation, we talk the strategy that we like, and we also roll through the pros and the cons versus a power play and a flex play, how many to include in your pick entry and things like that. Promo code FTN. They'll match your first deposit 100% up to $100. If you refer a friend, it's a free $25 in your Prize Picks account. We have a free Prize Picks Discord channel. You can get there by visiting ftndaily.com. Click chat, Discord up at the top. And we also have a free Prize Picks pick tracker over at ftndaily.com. Of course, you can have the free 3-day trial over there. Optimizers in Major League Baseball, NBA, PGA, NASCAR, NFL is going to be here before you know it. And then the free trials over at ftnbets.com/free. You can see my picks, Streams picks. With the package, you get all picks across all sports from everybody over at ftnbets.com. But you can sign up for free for 3 days, see what we're all about, projections, tools, Discord channel. It's all there for you. But I did want to kind of pat ourselves on the back a little bit, more so to Blickel, because he's been super sharp with this strategy. But also for the people that have reached out to me about same-game parlays, you can do this over at prizepicks.com. Stack the shooters and go the other way with the goaltender save. And you bet we'll be doing that on Sunday. And I think you can go both ways. Tweeted out yesterday, somebody said run it back. I think you can go the other way as well. Florida generates a lot of shots. You could take the Florida shooters, Barkov, Bennett, Kachuk, Verhaeghe, and Montour has been great to us here in these playoffs. And then you can go Samsonov the other way. So something to consider, something to think about. Flex play is certainly the way to go. 5 for 6, you'll earn yourself a little bit of a profit. Today on the show, Dream is in here next. We're going to take a quick break, take a look at the MLB slate, as I mentioned. A lot of underdog talk on this show. We have the Underdog Fantasy Football Draft Guide, which is going to launch early next week. We have rankings already over at ftnfantasy.com. In the guide, we're going to have stacks, strategy, values, players to target, but I'm going to talk a lot about that with you guys today. We had Sam on the show yesterday. We ran through some of his thoughts. I did a draft late last night. I'm going to show you the first 4 rounds of the draft. I'm going to talk about stacks to target, some value stacks, and some players that I feel like are values right now that will rise up draft boards when we get closer to week 1. Running backs, wide receivers, a lot to get to here on this show, but MLB Dream is in here next. So a quick break, and we'll talk MLB tonight with Mr. Dream. Keep it locked. We'll be back in a couple.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB. Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB.
Welcome back in. So we're bringing the GOAT MLB Dream on the Twitter machine of FTNBets.com. Chris Meaney here with you. Mean Streets continuing on Game Plus Network live on our FTN Network YouTube page. Happy Friday, good sir. George this morning is like, what, you guys are not doing Hot Corner? I had that amazing intro for you guys, and you're not going to bring that show back? We will bring that show back. It's been a busy couple of weeks. I know you've been busy. We had the NFL draft, which just took up a lot of time here at the FTN Network. So we will bring that show back. But I thought it's been a while since we've had you on Mean Streets. The crew at Game Plus Network really appreciates your insight. And we're about 5 weeks into the season, right? Just over that, really. It's full month here of data. And I think for me personally, this is when I start to, I have a whiteboard behind me where I'm like, I keep team stats of WOBA and guys who, are not hitting lefties and not hitting righties and teams like that. So I think now is the time, like we got a pretty good sample size of some data, which pitchers are kind of bringing it, which teams are struggling against certain, right-handedness, left-handedness and things like that. But there are certainly some surprises. Last year at this point, I brought you in and I said, wow, the Halos, the Angels are like cooking right now in the AL West. And we agreed that it wouldn't continue. But how about this Texas Rangers team at 18-12? Like taking a look at their offense, like this is a team that's inside the top 4 in terms of WOBA, runs scored. They're cooking. Like, how sustainable is this at the moment for Texas? Doesn't seem like, and no Corey Seager. Like, what's going on? Unmute yourself.
I should probably come up with it too. I haven't been on here so long that now I'm just muting myself again. Honestly, I don't know. I had the Rangers kind of backwards, right? I like the rotation and their starting pitchers this year, and I thought that would kind of be the strength of the team. I didn't really expect the lineup to put up these crooked numbers we're seeing almost on a nightly basis, especially without Seager. I thought the bottom of the lineup was a little weak, but Young, their rookie third baseman, is raking along. He looks great. So honestly, I'm not really sure how legit the Rangers are. I think they're definitely better than I expected. It's weird. We kind of expected, I guess, the Mariners to be where the Rangers kind of are now, and Absolutely. Those teams kind of flipped. But there are a couple other teams that I'm looking to fade, I guess, that have come off to hot starts. One of them is definitely the Pirates. I think I was on the Rays every game of that series in some way. They've just really beat up on bad teams. They're 14-6 against teams under 500. So I expect regression from them. I don't really think they're that legit. And just getting right into it, I bet the Blue Jays team total today at over 4.5. They projecting 8 righties in the lineup. Rich Hill has not been so great versus righties. They're hitting 290 off of him, slugging 570, a FIP of almost 6. So give me the Blue Jays at over 4.5 to get it done today versus the Pirates.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with this call, and kind of it just said off the top more so like about the Red Sox and overs, but I think the same thing kind of applies here with the Blue Jays. And this isn't really breaking any news when it comes to the American League East, but I mean the Rays at 26-6 is kind of surprising, even though they've beaten up on some really piss poor teams, especially to start the season. But your Orioles at 21-10, the Red Sox at 19-14, the Jays at 18-14, and the Yankees at 17-15. I mean, all of the teams inside the division are above 500, and they're all like, I don't know, like, are we going to see 4 squads from the American League East make the playoffs? I mean, we might.
I mean, if the season ended today, right, I think the Blue Jays are tied to the last spot. So, I mean, again, like, I don't expect the Orioles to be this good. They're 15-4 against teams under 500. They have some tough series coming up. So we'll kind of see how legit they actually are. And, the Rays have been good versus everybody, but they're also 17-2 versus teams under 500. So, a little bit of this is scheduled. But also, I do think the Rays are legit. And you brought up that Red Sox stat, man. I looked it up last night, and I knew that they were good going to the over, but I didn't realize that they were the best team in terms of team total and full game over. They're 24-9 to their team total over and 23-10 overall on overs. I mean, against righties, they're able to put 7 legit lefties in the lineup, and they're just giving guys so much trouble.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Verdugo has been really hot. He's a top 10 player in fantasy baseball over the last 2 weeks. Masataka Yoshida, I think we said when we were looking at some of the AL and NL rookie of the year odds heading in, I mean, I know for sure I probably put this on you, but I think I've been saying to everybody that this guy is probably going to hit 300. And if he hits 300, he's going to be in the conversation for AL Rookie of the Year with those kind of ratios and that kind of lineup. And he's hitting better than 300. He's been really fantastic. He's shown no issue in hitting big league pitching. So he's been really good. And a guy that I did like, and a lot of people have already kind of taken shots at me, like Tristan Cassis. You told me to draft this guy. He's not doing anything. So thanks for that. He's not even batting his weight, but he has had some nice moments at first base. As a Red Sox buddy tells me, that's the only reason he's still in the lineup is because he's been doing with his glove.
I'm pretty high on him as well in general. And someone posted his stats yesterday. He's swinging at, I think, a little bit more pitches. I'm not sure if they're outside of the zone, but I think the power is still there. And I mean, I think he'll figure it out. I mean, the favorite for the Rookie of the Year, Gunnar, just isn't having a good year at all. I know he hit a home run yesterday, but he's really struggled so far. So I mean, it's still early, but yeah, the Yoshida after the World Baseball Classic, I was like, okay, maybe a bunch of teams were wrong about this because the Red Sox and Bloom got so much crap.
A lot of crap for it.
I mean,
lot of heat.
General manager said that they need to adjust their models. You know, that Boston needs to adjust their models, and that they were a lot higher on him. I mean, that they severely overpaid. So it's really interesting to see that start from him.
Yeah, I think the one thing, and you know what? It's not only the only thing that happened, but watching the World Baseball Classic, I did get a good feel like he could hit big league pitching. There was one moment where he hit a ball, I think, to right over the fence, and it was like on one knee, and I was like, oh wow, okay, yeah, he could do this can translate over the big. So the Red Sox are cooking. As I told George, he's telling his old man he likes some bets. I said, don't take the Red Sox, just take the overs when it comes to Boston games. But yeah, everybody is going in that lineup at the moment. Baltimore, though, you kind of just touched on it. You don't feel like it's sustainable, but I feel like this offense is very, very underrated, man. And the pitching staff, too. They got some arms that I know you were in on Gibson early on. He's had some really nice strikeout appearances, too. Like strikeout props around 3.5, 4.5.
Yeah, he racked up 11 against the Tigers, and I don't think he was at 0 versus the Royals, which didn't really make any sense. And they're like the third highest strikeout team. That's another team that I kind of had backwards, right? I thought that their pitching would be a little bit better than it has been, and I thought that their lineup was a little bit below average. But dude, they are raking. They're putting up some crooked numbers, and also, I mean, if you look at them at the minor league level, they have a legit like 2 or 3 prospects that should probably get called up right about now. They just don't really have anywhere to put them. So, like, if they can figure out that pitching staff, I think that, they'll obviously be there, in the wild card hunt towards the end. I'm thinking they'll be a little bit closer to 500 than they are currently, though.
And all of a sudden, the Yankees, they're dealing with injuries, and Rodon and Severino and Judge and Stanton, just a lot of injuries right now up and down that lineup. So not a great start for the Yankees. They have won 2 straight, 4 and 6 in their last few. As I mentioned, the Jays, after winning 6 straight, they've lost 5 straight. But we do like the team total today against Rich Hill. Pretty good spot for the Bluebirds. I think the Orioles are going to hang all year. In the second half, as they were one of the better teams, surprisingly, in the American League down the stretch. And I think that they are going to hang around. No other real surprises for me in the American League. I suppose from Seattle, the offense, Julio Rodriguez is not off to a great start. Robbie Ray is now lost for the season. The bullpen has been kind of hit or miss, but I feel like it's mostly the offense. Like Ty France, I expect a little bit more from to start the season. So they're kind of hovering around 500. The Halos are kind of doing their thing, but it's amazing when I look at the run differential, plus 114 for Tampa Bay. Plus 26 for Baltimore, plus 69 for Texas. DeGrom's hurt at the moment. We just talked about Seager. I'm glad you brought up Josh Young because he had 3 homers in his last couple of days. He looks like a really good player. And then I look over at the National League. I'm not surprised with how things are going in the NL East. Atlanta doing their thing as well, right? This team is just loaded with offense, loaded with arms. Pittsburgh, we just kind of touched on. That to me is one of the most shocking things in baseball. I'm shocked. What odds could you have got for Pittsburgh to lead the Central at the end of April? Because the Angels were plus 350 to lead their division. What would the Pirates have been with a win total near the bottom 3 of the entire league heading in, he probably would have got like 24-1. I'm not even over exaggerating on that.
Well, that's funny. I've never looked into that market, but the number that popped into my head was 25-1, and so it would probably be something like that. And I mean, who expected the Cardinals to have the worst record in the National League at this point?
What is happening with them? What's going on? What could you say what's happening with St. Louis? At 10-22, the worst record in the NL, the 3rd worst record in baseball. They're -23 in run differential.
I mean, everything. Like if you pull up like Nolan Arenado on Savant, like you won't recognize his page. It's just covered in blue. They're not getting any real depth from their starting pitching. A bunch of people are struggling. I was actually on Flaherty yesterday and he got absolutely shredded. They just don't have many things going right. I want to say that they were ranked 2nd or 3rd in blown saves as well last time I checked. So it's like a little bit of everything. They're not getting that much from their starting pitching, their bullpen, or their offense really.
You know who's first in blown saves?
I would guess I'm just guessing the Angels.
You're right about that. Yeah. 18-14, and they've blown 7 or 8 games already to start the season. It's just classic Angels stuff, man. I'm telling you, you can't make this stuff up. So the Jays and the Pirates are at 6:35 Eastern. Yeah, I don't think there's any other takeaways that the Dodgers are kind of hanging around. I still think I like the Padres to win the division, but Arizona, I think you and I chat about Arizona as like a sneaky good offense, right? They have a sneaky good offense.
They've come back, a little bit back down to earth. I was devastated that they cut Madison Bumgarner, though. That was one of my favorite fades for the last couple of years. Yeah, I mean, under 4.5 strikeouts pretty much for the first few games, just like last year, until they lowered it to 3.5, and then unfortunately they cut him. So I'm hoping Colorado or somebody picks him up, or I hope he's pitching in the majors sometime soon because he's one of my favorites.
Fade the bum. I'm not gonna lie. I think I see you with a Bumgarner prop every single time he takes the mound, and the under cashes at a pretty good rate. Who would you expect to win the Central? Milwaukee? Or do you think the Cubs are sneaky? Because I think that they have a sneaky good offense.
The Cubs are another team that I thought kind of had a high floor, but I didn't think that they would be this good. They're 1 game under 500, but their offense is a lot better than I thought. I don't know what happened once they got here to DC and they just couldn't hit the Nats pitching, not even Patrick Corbin, which is bizarre. I mean, it was a little chilly here, but I actually bet the Brewers, I think a couple of weeks ago now at plus 150, a week or 2 into the season. I think they have the best pitching staff in that division. I think they'll have enough offense to get it done. But yeah, so I still kind of like them if you can get them at plus money or even plus 120. I haven't checked the market in the last couple of weeks, but with Pittsburgh sitting at 20-12, you should probably be able to get a decent number here on the Brewers still.
It's really weird to see the Astros too. When I take a look at some of the American League teams in terms of runs, I mean, you have 4 of the 5 American League teams at least 150 runs. You got the Twins at $147. The Texas Rangers at 191 is still ludicrous to me. 170 for the Angels, and then 137 for Houston. But I'd imagine the lineup does take shape when they get their leader back, Jose Altuve, right? I mean, Abreu, I don't think has been all that great. Pena's been striking out a ton. This Astros team does feel a little bit different. Do you feel like they feel different? Because in years past, you would never consider a pitcher against them in terms of the over when it comes to their strikeout prop. Like it was a team that always made a lot of contact and they didn't strike out, but early in the season, they've been striking out quite a bit, missing Verlander and then a couple of their injuries to their staff lately as well. I would imagine this Astros team comes back and wins the division, but it does feel like definitely a different start for the World Series chance.
No, for sure. I mean, not having Altuve at the top of that lineup, especially, with the year he had last year, it's a big loss for them. And I mean, you mentioned it. I never thought I'd be kind of attacking them in the pitching prop market, but we've gone after them a couple times. They have pretty drastic splits between their lefty and righty splits. So I think they're obviously much better versus lefties so far this year, but you could find some good spots to attack them against righties. And I mean, I know Dusty doesn't love to do it, but we saw him even drop Jose Abreu down in the lineup.
Yeah, pretty odd. All right, so anything else you like tonight? For me, I'll throw one at you. I do like the over between the Angels and the Texas Rangers. I saw 8.5 there. You got Dane Dunning on the bump for the Texas Rangers, and you got Tyler Anderson for the Angels. We just talk about the Rangers offense. I mean, for whatever reason, they're scoring runs. The Angels are actually doing okay offensively as well. And Tyler Anderson's just not good, dude. He's just not good enough. I knew he wasn't going to be as good. I knew he couldn't keep up the same kind of production he had last year with the Dodgers, but he's he's not getting any swing and misses. He never really did anyways. He's getting hit kind of hard. And like I said, I just look at this Texas lineup and I still, it kind of boggles me that they have 191 runs without Seager, but I still think that they can do their part to kind of get over the 8.5 here. The Angels do have one of the higher team applied totals today against Dane Dunning, who does have kind of a history of allowing some bombs, even though it is in Anaheim. Anything that's on your card that you like?
Yeah, I went ahead and played Senga over 5.5 strikeouts today versus the Rockies. I want to say his forkball has a strikeout percentage of around 70%, or I think it's 67%, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, I have it here. Oops, sorry, 57%, not as high. But he's had a little bit trouble with, I guess, getting swings and misses with the fastball. But as long as he's ahead in the count, he can definitely get that forkball to move. And the Rockies have a pretty significant difference in the strikeout percentage between home and away. Obviously, we know we don't see as much movement on pitches at Coors. So they're the 7th lowest strikeout percentage at home, and then the 3rd highest on the road. I don't normally like to, look at those home road splits, at least not at this point, but I think it's actually significant outside of course. So I bet that one as well. I haven't looked at the Angels game yet. That's one I'm going to look at when we're done here. But another team total I bet is the Royals at over 4.5 as well. Nice warm day in KC again, wind blowing out, and I mean they should be able to put some crooked spots up against Muller there against the A's.
That total has jumped considerably in the LA one at 9.5 now at plus 100. I could have swore I saw 8.5 this morning, but I know 9.5 is a pretty high number. I see our prop shops offering some 9s. I think we're going to see a lot of offense in that game, and I think they're the entire series. Do you like the Baltimore?
We already see 10. I'm seeing 10 up there as well. So I'm guessing that I haven't checked since we came on, but I assume that team total might be creeping up to a 5.5 at some spots as well.
Yeah, it is jumping up there pretty considerably. What do you think about Christian Javier against Seattle? The Mariners, we just talked about the struggles that they have offensively. They're striking out 26% of the time, which is the 2nd highest mark in baseball behind the San Francisco Giants, too, is another team that I continue to pick on offensively. A lot of swing and miss up and down their lineup. Taking a look at the swinging strike percentage as well via Fangraphs, and you will see the Seattle Mariners are up near the top as well. Just outside the top 12, actually, but a double-digit swinging strike percentage at 11.3. Christian Javier, I'm seeing in our prop shop, over 6.5 strikeouts at minus 120 over at DraftKings. BetMGM is minus 125. Caesars minus 128. And FanDuel's hanging 7.5 at plus 120, but just give me the 6.5. You think you can punch out 7 tonight?
I like when FanDuel just straight up puts their K-prop a run higher. Like, go bet this somewhere else. Like, we don't want any of your action. Yeah, I'm actually right there with you. It's weird. I lean to Seattle on the money line. I don't know if we'll eventually get there. I haven't checked that number in a bit, but I did bet Christian Javier over 6.5. The Mariners lead the league in strikeout percentage over the last 2 weeks. They're striking out at 31% versus righties. So kind of like a smaller sample size. Like their recent form, they're just K-ing a bunch. So I do like that. And I figured that you would be on that one as well.
Oh, I like Javier. I think he was in the tracker the other day. Ben had an under or Frank had an under, and I was like, whoa, okay, maybe I just won't bet it. But the past couple days his past couple outings have been pretty good. I mean, he's got 16 punch outs in his last 11 and 2/3. He had 10 against the Braves, and he had 5 there, or 6 against the Phillies, which is a team that's is also a lot of swing and miss to start the season for them. But I think the first couple starts for Javier were pretty bad. He has allowed a bomb in 4 straight games, 5 overall, but the first couple were pretty bad for him. He's getting up some contact, not really getting a lot of swing and miss, but he was playing the high-powered Pittsburgh Pirates offense, so maybe it was just a bit of a hiccup for him. I say that tongue-in-cheek, but yeah, I would say the under is probably the way to go there with Luis Castillo on the other side. I mean, every time he's on the hill, I think you can. That's probably why you're leaning Seattle, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Castillo, especially. I mean, he's been great at Safeco ever since getting traded there from the Reds. Went from like one of the worst pitchers park to a fairly good spot for him. We're already seeing a couple 6.5s there for the full game total, so I don't know if I would necessarily play that. But I do lean under and Seattle here. But I already locked in Javier for the props, and I know it's always weird to kind of play the opposing pitcher over strikeouts and then the other team's money line, but I mean. It's not correlated, but it's not that wild for both to come through.
Love it, dude. I always really enjoy my conversations with you. Hot Corner is going to return. It's been a busy couple of weeks. We're looking to get that back at least a couple days a week to kind of break down the MLB slate. Everybody can check you out over at ftnbets.com. The picks are all over there in the FTN Bet Tracker, and you're doing pretty much daily articles, right, over at ftnbets.com, and they're free to check out. I know you got a couple. I see you all the time on the schedule right now.
Yeah, I think we're doing 3 or 4 over there. And yeah, we have to get the Hot Corner back. Our intro song is just way too good to leave that on the shelf. But I know you're super busy, Meaney. You're one of the hardest working guys out there. You're always on shows, man, crushing it. I see you crushing hockey too, man. Keep it rolling.
Hockey season. We got Jason Prince in the house. He says he's finally going to catch a live show here for some shot prop stuff. But listen, it's not a good night. It's not a good night in the NHL. So that's why we have Dream on to give us all the MLB picks, Jason. So we salute you for coming into the show live. Check out all the picks over at ftnbets.com. Appreciate it, dude. We'll catch up very soon. And I think, when we check in again, maybe in a few weeks and we see what the standings look like, I bet you your O's are going to be still atop the AL. I don't know if they can catch Tampa at this point. I don't think anybody can catch Tampa at this point, but the O's are going to play some playoff baseball. I know you're going to be loving that. Follow MLB Dream on Twitter. We'll be back in a couple. Hang tight. We're going to switch gears, talk a little football, underdog, best ball stacks, values, and I'll take a look at the first 4 rounds of a draft I took part in last night. A lot more to get to here on Mean Streets. Back in a couple.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB. Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB.
Welcome back in. I just saw the craziest thing on Twitter, and you're probably thinking, like, what could it be? What is? There's all kinds of craziness on Twitter. This tweet, which was quote retweeted from, I'm not even gonna say who it's from. It doesn't matter. The tweet itself is from KNBR, and it's Matt Morico says, quote, Sam Darnold might be the most talented thrower of football 49ers. Like, it doesn't even make sense. The sentence itself is not even structured right. Sam Darnold might be the most talented thrower of football 49ers have ever had. I think he's trying to say that Sam Darnold may be the most talented football thrower that the 49ers have ever had. And he couldn't even write it properly in a sentence because it doesn't make any sense. Like, how could you even say that? Sam Darnold? He's got a tight little spiral, but come on, man. There's been some good quarterbacks in San Fran over the years. Speaking of football, so yesterday we talked about Underdog Fantasy. They have all kind of contests on there. They have like over under. You can do some things that we talked about off the top of the show. You could do that over at Underdog as opposed to Prize Picks as well. Just same game parlay sort of stuff, stacking a bunch of shooters with an opposing goalie. You can do some over or under on some props and goal scorers and things like that. But also very known for their best ball drafts. And we've done several on this show: football, NHL, baseball, and we're going to continue to do them on this show. In fact, we will have a live Underdog best ball draft next week. I'm hoping to do one actually every single week with you guys, and we'll have some guests join us, and we'll just talk through the feel of the draft and where players are going. And we'll definitely, like, it's May, we'll have a great feel of the rise in ADP, the fall in ADP. But I think there really is something to be said about drafting early at this point. Injuries, of course, are going to happen. Unfortunately, things will happen, which will open up, avenues for other players. But also, you're going to be able to jump on some of these like early values, which we talked with Sam Schroeder yesterday, like especially some of the rookies that have low ADPs, and they're going to continue to rise up. So I want to show you guys in a little bit. I'll show you kind of the stacks that I'm after, some value stacks, and overall value plays at the running back and wide receiver position. Just players I feel like you can take late, and their ADP will rise as we get closer to week 1 of the NFL season. So here's a look at the first 4 rounds of a best ball mania draft I did yesterday. It's $25 to enter, but they do have smaller contests, $5, $3. They just had the puppy that was released last night, I believe, $5 entry. There's a ton of prizes. I think $3 million for first place overall here in this particular draft. But I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a feel, a little bit of a look here of how the first round went. Justin Jefferson off the top, and that would be my first pick overall as well. You're not always going to luck into getting first overall pick, but I think it's a significant pick to get first overall. Justin Jefferson, for the most part, he will go first. Travis Kelce, a little bit of a surprise there. I have seen him go pretty early, but second overall pick here. I mean, he's not going to go second overall in your draft with your buddies, but something we talked about yesterday, you want to shoot for upside. You want to get some stacks. You want to be a little bit creative here. You're competing with hundreds of thousands of people in this contest. So you definitely have to maximize your upside. Getting a guy like Travis Kelce, I'm not even sure in the later parts if he was able to get no, he wasn't, because Patrick Mahomes is here in the second round. So he didn't get that stack. And, taking Kelce that early, you're most likely not going to be able to get Patrick Mahomes at the end of the second. You'd have to kind of do it at end of the first with Kelce and then early second there. But the first goes like this for the iTunes and Spotify listeners: Justin Jefferson, Travis Kelce, Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, who did lead all fantasy players in fantasy points per game at the wide receiver position, but missed half the year, but didn't really miss a beat from the amazing season he had 2 years ago. Christian McCaffrey, the first running back off the board. I rent Tyreek Hill at pick number 6. Josh Allen at 7. Bijan Robinson, RB2 overall here. That's actually where I have him in my rankings. I just moved him ahead of Austin Eckler, but I wouldn't fight you on Eckler versus Robinson. A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams, Jonathan Taylor, and Stephon Diggs round out round 12, or first round 12 picks there. Not a ton of surprises. Josh Allen goes early. Not going to happen in your standard league and Superflex, of course. 6 passing touchdown, of course. But, he goes early in this setting. And, I've seen those 3 quarterbacks go in the first 2 rounds, and they are going to go in the first 2 rounds. Some people have talked about the strategy of being aggressive and getting one of those 3 quarterbacks in that first tier, maybe waiting it out in that second tier with rushing upside in Justin Fields and Lamar Jackson. And you see Joe Burrow. Followed by Joe Burrow would be Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert. But I have no problem actually with those 3, but I think there certainly are some valuable quarterbacks in the later parts of the drafts. We can talk about that in a little bit, but this second round looks like this: Austin Eckler, Garrett Wilson kind of early for me. I would go CeeDee Lamb and Waddle and Brown over Garrett Wilson, but he's definitely going to have a good season with Aaron Rodgers. I fully believe that. A definite upgrade at the quarterback position. Patrick Mahomes, as I mentioned, first quarterback there. Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, then Waddle to myself. So started with the Miami stack. I did get Tua Tagovailoa a little bit later on. Certainly some risk with this Miami stack and Tua. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Hurts, Nick Chubb, Tony Pollard, Jahmyr Gibbs. A little early for my liking for Jahmyr Gibbs. I think, for me in my rankings, Ramondre Stevenson, Josh Jacobs, Breece Hall, Travis Etienne. These are guys that I like more than Jahmyr Gibbs. I went in the third round. The third round starts Chris Olave, Devontae Smith, Lamar Jackson, Ramondre, T. Higgins, DK Metcalf to myself. I did also get Jackson Smith and Jigba, and I got Geno there. So my stacks were Seattle and Miami here. Josh Jacobs, Justin Fields, Amari Cooper, Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, Mark Andrews is the second tight end off the board. Then Calvin Ridley. We talked yesterday with Sam Sherdery about the Jags stack, and Chark is kind of going wide receiver 35-ish, and Calvin Ridley's going as wide receiver 17 to 20. He's a couple years removed from a 1,400-yard season. That's the kind of upside he can bring. I love him. I think he's a fantastic wide receiver, but let's keep in mind that he hasn't really played football in the past 2 years, and he's in a new system, and they do have a lot of mouths to feed in Jacksonville. I think it's a terrific stack to target, to be honest with you. I think this Jags offense can go toe-to-toe with anybody in the league. I really fully believe that. Trevor Lawrence in year 3, year 2 with Doug Peterson, adding Ridley, having Zay Jones, having Chark, having Evan Ingram. I really like this offense, and ETN is going to see fewer stack boxes this season. There's really no question. I think the biggest question I do have with Jacksonville and their offense is their offensive line and protecting Trevor Lawrence, because we did see him. Their run blocking, their pass blocking is near the bottom of the league in the NFL. So that would be the upgrade that I would like to see Jacksonville this season, but nonetheless, Calvin Ridley there to start the 5th. And let's round this one out here, Quan. Thank you, sir. DJ Moore, Joe Burrow, Kenneth Walker. We have Keenan Allen there, followed by TJ Hawkinson as the third tight end off the board. I do agree with that. And how about Najee Harris? I think there's a terrific value here for Najee Harris in round 4, on average going as pick 40. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. The 15th running back off the board. Slow start to the season last year. I thought a really good second half from him. The touches were up, just like we saw in the rookie season. Deebo Samuel, Christian Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Williams, and J.K. Dobbins to round out round 4. Any surprises you see from you guys? I'd love to hear it in the comment section, in the chat. We're going to take another quick break, and we'll continue the Underdog Fantasy talk. I want to present some values at running back and wide receiver, and a couple stacks to target as well. Top tier stacks, and then late round stacks as well. So keep her locked. A little bit more fantasy football talk here on Mean Streets. Do hockey in the final block. Schmid has announced the goalie for the New Jersey Devils, and may do like some sort of same game parlay thing with a couple Carolina shooters and the Devils goalie, but we'll talk about that in the final block. I mean, not a lot happened in that first game. It was like 17-17 the shots at 5-5. It's tough to get behind an under to begin with, and it's really tough to get behind minus 170 unders. Jason Prince in the house looking for a shot prop. I think we got one for you in just a little bit, dude. Let's take a look at some of the values. Quan, we got running backs and wide receivers. I just wanted to bring this with quick hits here. We can dive deeper into this as we get closer to the season. But for me, drafting last night, these are the players that kind of stood out to me where I thought, wow, there's some pretty good value here. So I mentioned Najee Harris, taking him in the 4th round at pick 39 on average. DeAndre Swift is a bit of a wild card, of course. I think Rashad Penny is also a wild card, but also let's keep in mind that this Eagles offense has been the best rushing offense in the league, and over the past 2 years, they still have the best offensive line in football with Jason Kelce coming back. This is the type of format where you can take shots and take risks on certain players. You don't have to set your lineups. Best ball is just if they have the best weekly finish, they're in your lineup and you move forward. You don't have to worry about, the waiver wire. Injuries are going to happen. Things are going to happen, of course. Swift hasn't played a full season in the NFL, but that's why he's going outside pick 60. I actually think he's in a better environment as opposed to Detroit. Great offensive line there. Good offense last year. Better offensive line in Philadelphia. And I do believe he's going to be the lead back there for the Birds. Joe Mixon at pick 69.9. Look at that number. Oh, so nice. But are you kidding me here? Like a 7th round pick, 8th round pick for Joe Mixon. Same thing with Cam Akers. These two teams didn't do anything. Like there's been some talk about Mixon being cut and moved on, but they restructured his contract. It looks like he's going to be a full go for Cincinnati this season. Of course, there is some off-field issues with Mixon, but that's kind of baked into the price here. But 69.9, a guy that could catch 45 plus balls, linked to a top 5 offense, wasn't super efficient running the rock last year between the tackles, but it's still a really good offense, and he has upside to be a top 10, top 15 running back, and you're getting outside the top 20, top 25 in some drafts at pick 70 on average. Same thing with Akers. Didn't do anything to Zach Evans. It's not going to really compete with Cam Akers. I think he has top 15 upside at the position. You saw how good he was down the stretch of this season after the Rams moved on from some pieces. And I don't know what happened with him and Sean McVay, but he was in Sean McVay's good books at the end of the season, and he was terrific. And they did some things in the draft to help the offensive line there. Rashad White didn't do anything, right? It's White's backfield. The offense may not be great, but he's going to get a ton of touches. He proved that he can handle a full workload last year. I thought he had a couple really good games, actually. One in Germany against Seattle where they ran the rock really well there in Tampa, and he caught a bunch of passes. He's going to continue to fall down draft boards. No Tom Brady. Question marks at the quarterback position. I get it, but good value there for him. Dave Montgomery. Gibbs is going 2nd round, 3rd round. Montgomery's not going anywhere, guys. He's a good back. He's a veteran back. He's a good goal line back. I think that it's going to be a split backfield there. Why not give me the guy, outside the first 8 rounds that, could be the goal line back? Think about Jamal Williams last year and all the touches he had. You going to give Montgomery maybe 15 plus rushing touchdowns this year? I don't know if he hits that number. Probably not. I'd lean to the under. But if he gets 10, he's going to return value. Same thing with A.J. Dillon, Samaje Perine. I don't think that the Broncos are telling, they've been pretty hush-hush about Javonte Williams. I think that injury is pretty significant, actually. So Samaje Perine, good pass blocker, sneaky good running back as well, can catch the rock. Just a little late-round flyer with him and Jerick McKinnon. Deuce Vaughn as well. Tony Pollard coming off the injury. No Zeke. Vaughn is pretty much free towards the end of a draft. And who knows if Pollard, suffers a setback or anything like that. Maybe they re-sign Zeke. We don't have a team for Zeke, but I think it's pretty good value there. Pick 157. How about the wide receivers? Let's switch over to the wide receivers here quickly, and then we'll break. Christian Watson, I just think he has upside to be a top 15 wide receiver. We saw only a little bit between him and Jordan Love, but it was a really good few throws that they seem to be on the same page. I don't fully believe in the Packers. I think he'll be checking quite a bit, but Christian Watson's going to be the one there for Jordan Love. And I think he has top 10 upside, actually, at the wide receiver position. I am a little bullish on him. Michael Pittman going a little bit too late. George Pickens, Marquise Brown again. Who knows if Hopkins is going to get traded, but Brown was really good at the start of the season. I think Arizona is going to be chucking quite a bit this season. They got a ton of holes all over their lineup. Treylon Burks, really the only wide receiver in Tennessee, and a good one, and I think good value. Deontay Johnson didn't score a lot of touchdowns, so that's why he's going to pick 80. I'd rather have Pickens, of course, but going about 10, 15 picks earlier. Jordan Addison, I'm all about. Quentin Johnson, Sky Moore, Adam Thielen, Rasheed Rice there for Kansas City, Jalen Reed, and John Mechie, who is, he missed last year with recovering from leukemia, and he's on the field. He's practicing. Really good player. Really rooting for him. But Houston's a cheap stack that you can get a piece of. There's Robert Woods kind of in around that range as well. And some other pieces that they have on their roster, like Nico Collins, not fantastic, but I think John Mechie is going to, I think he's going to move up draft boards, and I think he's a really good player. I think we're really going to be talking about him in the fantasy community once like camps open up and preseason and things like that. And just like some rookies that I think are in decent spots, like all those Kansas City wide receivers are pretty cheap, if you want to stack Mahomes with some of them, but Thielen, same sort of deal with Carolina as well. So a couple values at the wide receiver position will break. And I got some stacks for you guys as well. Top stacks and some value stacks. And then we will visit the NHL slate. tonight. Keep her locked.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB.
The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level.
Welcome back in. Let's take a look at some stacks to target. I pretty much listed almost every team. I did leave a few off. Those, okay, we'll start with the value stacks. This is cool. Value stacks, and then we have some other top tier stacks that, that I would like to go after. So Cleveland with Watson, I think it may be a little bit more of a pass-happy offense this year. Watson and Cooper, it's actually an easy stack to get. You kind of have to pick and choose whether you want Elijah Moore or Donovan Peoples-Jones. I kind of lean more. I think Tillman will kind of cut into Donovan Peoples-Jones, and then you can take Njoku there, but a pretty decent stack there with maybe potentially Watson, Cooper, and Njoku, and then one of the 3 wide receivers. Justin Fields, of course. I don't think it's going to be a pass-happy offense, but they brought in DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet, but I think you can get by with like a mini little field stack here with like Fields, Kmet, and then one of the 2 wide receivers there, Moore or Mooney. I really like this feel of the Pittsburgh stack. I think Pickett is a guy that I'm going to have a lot of shares of. He's going outside the top 20, 22 at the quarterback position. He was a sneaky little good fantasy quarterback towards the later part of last season. I love George Pickens. I think he's a baller. I would shy away from Allen Robinson, but Deontay Johnson, as I mentioned, you probably have to pick and choose one of the 2. I like Pickens. If you can go Pickett, Pickens, and Freiermuth is pretty solid there as well. Anthony Richardson's going to continue to climb up draft boards, but Anthony Richardson, Pittman, as I mentioned in the last block, is a value wide receiver in around pick 60. You go Alec Pierce, maybe Downs or Jelani Woods at the tight end position. You could do that as like your last pick. Carolina's another cheap stack as well with Bryce Young. And then you kind of have to pick and choose whether you want Thielen or Chark. I'm definitely team Thielen over Chark. I think Chark does maybe have a higher ceiling, but he has had multiple issues staying on the field. So I kind of lean Thielen there. And then Mingo and then Hayden Hurst towards the end there as well. And these are the top stacks. Not breaking any news with these stacks, but it's pretty easy to get behind a Mahomes stack. It's kind of tough, like we talked about when we looked at the first 4 rounds. You have to take Kelsey at the back half of the first and then Mahomes really close after. But it's easy to get some of the pass catchers in, whether it's Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, or Rice in there as well. They also have Richie James you do as like a late round flyer there, but Jalen Hurts, you kind of have to, you could do Brown and Smith. You can kind of get away with one of the 2. Maybe it could fall into your lap perfectly that way. Or you can just do Hurts, one of the 2 wide receivers with Dallas Goedert there. Burrow, Chase and Higgins. It's tough to get Chase and Higgins, but you can get Burrow with one of the 2 for sure. Boyd, Irv Smith is available to you. Buffalo with Allen and Diggs, Gabe Davis, Kincaid. Yeah, I love the Jacksonville stack, as I talked about. Lawrence, Ridley, or Chark. Zay Jones, Evan Ingram in there. The Miami one is super risky, but it's easy to get done with Tua and Hill and Waddle. Seattle one I love quite a bit as well. You have to kind of pick and choose. JSN is going ahead of Lockett. Lockett's actually a really good value. You go Metcalf and Lockett and Noah Fant there towards the end of your draft. Geno was a top 10 quarterback, and he's not getting drafted as a top 10 quarterback this year. I think, for me, I have him ranked as a top 10 guy. I don't see anybody else. They got him around 15, 16. Led the NFL in completion percentage. You add JSN, you add Charbonnet. I really like the direction of the Seattle team. I actually think that they could win the division. Maybe I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid too much. Minnesota, Cousins. Jefferson is pick 1, so 101. If you get Jefferson, boom, you can do the mini stack. If you don't get Jefferson, you can still do it there with Addison, Hawkinson, and Cousins, maybe Osborne in your life. Herbert, Allen, Williams, Quentin Johnston, and then Lamar with Andrews, and you can pick and choose between Flowers, OBJ, and Bateman in there as well. So there's a lot of stacks there. I just kind of threw at you. That's kind of the order that I like them there, and then some values that we just went over as well. I got one NHL prop and a same game parlay for you guys to wrap up Mean Streets. Hang tight. Back in 2 minutes. All right, one game on the ice tonight. Not a lot happened in game 1. I don't expect a lot to happen tonight between the Hurricanes and the Devils. The under 5.5 is juiced at like minus 135, and I do have a lean to the under there. I know it's really tough to get behind that, but I'm going to lean here with Martin Necas as my guy tonight at over 2.5 shots at minus 122. It's just tough for me to get behind an under anyways, especially when they're like minus 170, minus 165. Check out ftmbets.com/free. I will have a couple more maybe in there, but Necas led the way for the Hurricanes. He had 4 attempts and 2 shots at 5-5, but overall he had 8 attempts and 3 shots on goal. Brent Burns had 5 attempts and 2 shots at 5-5, 6 attempts overall in the 2 shots. Sebastian Aho had 7 shot attempts overall, but just the 1 shot on net. So I am going with the guys that at least had the attempts, and you see the same game parlay in there. That's like 9-1 over at Bet365. Necas over 2.5, Jarvis over 2, Brent Burns over 3.5, and then Schmid over 29.5 saves. You get a little greedy there. If you put in Aho, you could actually get that up to about 18-1 if you went Necas, Jarvis, Burns, Aho, and then Schmid in net. That would be a 5-leg. But check out the free pick tracker over at ftndaily.com. and ftnbets.com as well. As for tomorrow, Edmonton's going to even up that series like the over 6.5. I'm going to be in on Draisaitl over 3.5 shots, Shea Theodore over 2.5 shots, and Jonathan Marchessault over 2.5 shots. Marchessault and Theodore combined for 8 shots and 12 attempts. That was just 5-5 alone. So look for those 2 Vegas Golden Knights shooters, and Edmonton will win that game like 5-4. It's going to be fantastic. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday. Cheers.